Hello, everyone, and welcome to MATHurdays. My name is Teresa Wills. I'm an assistant professor at George Mason University in the Math Education Leadership Department. And this today is an example of what I do every day. I teach a lot of pre-service teachers and in-service teachers math content through rich tasks and math routines. So I hope today that you're able to get a little bit of tips from what I do as you are adjusting to your new normal. We're going to work between two platforms, Collaborate, which if you can hear me, you're already on, and the slides. I just shared the link again in the chat box. You will need to have both open, and you'll use Collaborate mostly just for the microphone, and everything else will be done in Google Slides. On slide one, you'll see several resources. You can click on those to send me emails, check out my website, Twitter, YouTube, and if you are interested in becoming a math specialist, meaning that we do a whole lot more work just like MATHurdays, the information is on slide two. And our last announcement is on slide three. If you want to head on down there, all of the templates that you see in this session and any other session are available on my website. And you can find all recordings from MATHurdays, from other recordings there, as well as the blank slides. So if you want to use the slides for your class, you have a blank set available to make a copy of. So everything is free to educators because we need more free stuff in this world. Alrighty, come on down to slide 4 and 5. They're exactly the same, just more room since we have such a great group of people today. And you're going to share your successes and celebrations right here. And the way you'll do it is through a text box. On slide 5, I'm showing you what a text box looks like. Except you're not going to use this text box. You're going to actually use the one in your toolbar, which is up here and over somewhere around this area. You'll find that little T. I'll ask a couple of you all to share out using your microphone, but everyone gets a voice. Everyone can type on these slides. Latanya, let's talk about you getting into more math classrooms. What's your role? Why is this so important? And how does it feel?
Good morning. Thank you for hosting us. I am a math coach at Woodburn Elementary School in Fairfax County. And the first few weeks of virtual learning, I think teachers were just trying to figure out their way. So I think now that they're in a groove, they have started inviting me into their classrooms to co-teach, to lead number sense routines, and to just be a moderator if need be. But I'm enjoying that they're reaching out to me and asking for help.
That is wonderful. And you know, math coaches get this really unique role right now where because the technology is challenging, even teachers who might not regularly be as interested in working with the math coach now have a whole new reason to because of the technology. So you kind of get that foot in the door with, you know, teachers that you might not normally have had that opportunity. So excited for you. Math coaches, they're where my heart is. I was a math coach for years and years and years, and I love that position. Allison, tell us about yoga and how are you getting time for yourself?
Good morning. Yoga is just something that I do. And yesterday when I had to go into the school and clean up my students' desks, I was not in a really good place. And being in front of the computer is not something I'm used to at all. So my whole body has been out of whack and I just wasn't taking the time to give myself the time. So that's what I'm doing. That's what I did today. And that's actually why I'm here with you today, because I need some filling up.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you today. And I might have to try out that yoga. I'm someone who sits on like one side of my body and then switches over. And I'm sure my back is not doing so great. Let's see. Somebody made Two Truths and a Lie interactive slides. Tell us a little bit about that one. And it looks like we even have a picture of it on slide 5 if you all want to see.
Hi, I made Two Truths and a Lie originally for some work with graphs where students doing 7th grade math were comparing different types of data displays, and it went really well, so we decided to use it in 5th grade with different types of triangles and geometry.
That looks so cool. And am I understanding right that after they make their two truths and a lie, that they change the lie into a truth? Is that what you have that black arrow for?
Exactly, that's their revision, so they can correct the one that they decided was a lie.
That is really cool. And Sally, I invite you, if you would like to share that, you can send the link to me. I'll share it on my website and give you credit. Just put your name down in the presenter's notes, because I know that's something I would like to use as a little routine. It's beautiful.
Sure thing, thanks.
Let's see. Anne, you are going to the classroom after being an administrator. Congratulations. A classroom is one of the greatest places to be. Tell us, what do you love about it?
I just knew that I was missing the classroom, and by my choice, just semi-retired from one school district, and back in Fairfax. Right now I'm doing math interventions with grades 2 through 5, and it's just great to be back, especially with the remote teaching, and it just remembering all those really cool things that I've done with math.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the distance learning world, and welcome back to the classroom. All right, folks, so that is successes and celebrations. It is a really important slide to include to build your classroom community. And as you note here today, we have 40 people in here. Everyone has the opportunity to have a voice on the Google slide. And as the teacher, I can kind of preview them and kind of work up my own variety of the discussion that we have by calling on certain students to elaborate. So I hope you use that in your class sessions. Let's jump right into our math routine for today. Slides 6, 7, and 8 are identical. I just have duplicates because of the class size we have today. And I'm going to ask you to type in any number that would fit on the number wave into one of those boxes and move the little box down to the number wave. On the text side of this, each box is semi-transparent so that it shows up on the wave. And I used a bullet point because I want the students to visualize a ball rolling on this number line. And go ahead and put your bullet point as if it was a little ball right there on the number wave. It's all right if the numbers are on top of each other. And let's hear out from a couple of people. I'll ask that you raise your hand and collaborate. We'll get a cue, and we'll have 5 people kind of share their number and which way it would, where it is on the number wave, and if gravity was working, which way it would roll. So raise your hand to get a cue number. And when you talk about your number, if you would change the text box to like bright yellow so we can see where your number is. Who would like to share? Laura, we'll start with you. Tell us what slide you're on, what your number is, and how it would roll.
So I am on slide 6, and I'm about to turn my text box yellow, and my number was 3 99 hundredths, and I positioned it as close as I could to 4 because I know that it's only 1/100th away from reaching 4, so I wanted it to show that it would be as close as I could get it.
Lovely. And if we turned on gravity, which number would it roll towards? 4 or 4 and 1/10?
It would roll to 4.
Very cool. Who else? Go ahead and raise your hand. Who else would like to share their number with us? Juliana, go ahead. Which slide are you on and what's your number?
Hi, I'm on slide 8, and my number is 4 and 99 thousandths. Hold on, let me turn it yellow. And if I turned on gravity, it would go to 4 and 1/10. And what was interesting is I was thinking of extremes, and I started with another number, and then someone else picked the same number, so I had to change mine.
And very cool. And I'd love to call on somebody else. And I'm going to go ahead and change the color of this box to a bright green. And there is 4 and 5/100ths. And it's right at the top of this curve on slide 6. So on slide 6, we have this bright green one. And that one's going to provide us a little bit of a tricky situation. Who did that one, and what do you think about that number on this curve?
I think it was me. I'm Lori, and I picked that number because it was halfway, and so I don't think it would roll anywhere. Or either way.
Absolutely. So in mathematics, sometimes we just have rules that we all agree to follow. And in this case, when we have a number that is at the very tippy top, if it is exactly in between, we are going to talk about our customs and what we plan to do. And the way I work with this with my students is I tell them that we have a little bit of a wind, just a tiny bit of a wind, and it is going to make anything that is right dead center roll to the right. You all can, come up with whatever works best for you and your students, but that's just a convention that we do in mathematics, and it's important that we talk about conventions with our students. So we do have a little bit of a wind, and it's going to blow that number over. I'd like you all to talk with me a little bit about this routine. What do you think about it, and what is important for our students to know about this routine? Go ahead, Laura.
So sometimes I struggle. I teach 4th grade, and I struggle when students come to me from lower grades and they've been taught the rounding mountain, and they memorize a little rhyme, which a lot of us have heard, like one above, give it a shove, that sort of thing. And what I really like about this routine is that it really resembles the number line. So it's like a balance between visualizing that mathematical convention and connecting it to the number line so that students have a context and understand why certain numbers might be rounded to different ones.
I love that explanation. Who else? Lori, go ahead.
Well, I teach grade 1 and 2, so I could see a lot of kind of like the number line thing too. And just the idea, if you had numbers between 1 and 100 or whatever, an idea of like where things are. Kids have a lot of trouble with that. So I really like this. And I liked how, like, when you started typing it, if you noticed you made a mistake, you could kind of change it or whatever. So I really liked that part too.
Oh, yes, we love mistakes in these classes. Absolutely. Leslie, go ahead.
Hi, so I am really new to interactive Google Slides, and I'm struggling. You could probably tell I'm struggling with a lot of the basics here. So my worry is that when I go to teach using these slides, that I'm going to have a hard time helping my students how to understand them. So I'm so sorry to do this, but can you just give me a quick walkthrough? I was having a hard time getting my number on the number line. I'm sorry, everybody in the class, but I don't really
No
know how
worries.
to.
We do Q&A and detailed explanations on how to do it at the end. So Lori or
Okay,
Leslie, I'm going to ask that you write your question right down on slide 31, our very last slide, and any question you have throughout the session, you write there, and we'll walk you through it at the end.
got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Raha, go ahead.
Hi, Teresa. It's more of a question than a comment.
Oh,
I wonder,
Raha, you're very
yeah.
quiet today. You're usually louder. Is there a way you can adjust that?
Okay, hold on.
Oh, that's better. All right, we'll come back to that one. Raha, when you get it set up, just go ahead and start talking. You will also notice slide 9, 10, 11, and 12. If you would like, you may place your same number on those number waves and see what happens as a class as you all replace those. Carol, go ahead.
Thank you. Can you tell me where the slides are? I'm sorry I'm late. I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead and paste
Where
them
are
in
the
the chat
slides?
box. Alrighty.
Oh, thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you.
And so you all can see the way that this number wave really does work like a number line, but it gives a little bit more context to like, why on earth do we bother with rounding? Why do we do it? And the students can start to imagine that number line zooming in and out, and we get into some really neat number talks, especially when we get up to slide 12, and everybody's number gets very clustered together. So I'll let you all explore those as we move into the rich task. Come on down to slide 13. Slide 13 has our rationale for why we do rich tasks. This comes out of the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, their principles to action, as the 8 math teaching practices. You will see each of these practices in today's activity, and they are all being showcased, so be excited to see those. On slide 14 is our problem-solving oath. I'll give you a minute to read it while I read it out loud, and I ask that if you pledge this oath, that you please write your name in the chat box. I, Teresa, promise to try my best. I will make sense of patterns and numbers. I will use manipulatives and drawings. I will make mistakes. I will ask questions. I will listen to other ideas. I will stay engaged by always trying to find another solution or representation. I am a problem solver. I make the world a better place. Look at all these great problem solvers we have. Congratulations on being awesome. And join me on slide 16. We have a little launch video. I ask that you take a moment and you watch that YouTube video. That will launch us into what we're doing today.
We love science, yes we do.
We love science, yes we do.
We love science, science you.
We love science, science you.
When I say science, you say you. Science,
You.
science,
You.
Today, Science U campers use their brains.
Well, that's a given because Science U campers use their brains every day.
But especially today.
Campers know that their brain controls their body through the central nervous system. But how fast does the brain send messages to the body? We're going to measure Science U campers' reaction time with the ruler test.
The ruler test?
The ruler test. You stand over the test subject with the ruler and put the end of the ruler right between his open fingers. Then, without telling him when you're going to do it, you drop the ruler.
And I have to catch it.
We measured the distance on the ruler by recording where he grabbed it.
The further it fell, the slower the reaction.
18. The ruler is falling at 9.8 meters per second squared.
We can do the math and chart the reaction time.
I was fast.
I was faster.
No, you weren't.
Yes, I was.
Let's examine how the brain and the body work together. Our eyes see the ruler's been dropped.
The ruler's been dropped. Dropped.
Signals race through sensory neurons to the brain.
Message received.
The brain then fires off the message through motor neurons down the arm to tell the hand to catch the ruler.
Mission completed. Your reaction time depends on your eyesight and the speed that the signals travel to your brain and from your brain to your muscles.
So what do you want to test next?
Right hand versus left hand. I want to try it on my dad.
How fast is your reaction time?
All right, folks, so hopefully you are eager to see what your reaction time will be. Join me on slide 17. And go ahead and raise your hand and collaborate. Let's just see what type of group we have today. Are you familiar with Cracker Barrel and maybe this game? If you are, go ahead and raise your hand. Awesome. So this is a little game that they play, and the object is to jump these little golf tees until you have only one left. And they have a ranking system. All the way, if you leave just one, they call you a genius. Wow. And they have 4 different ranks for leaving only 1, 2, 3, or 4. And so your task today, Cracker Barrel is going to create a digital game for their customers to test their reflex speed. Each group has a different game to explore on your assigned slide, and you're going to use Google Sheets to keep track of everyone's speed. These are interactive just like Google Slides, and it allows you to do a spreadsheet. You'll notice some really cool things about that sheet, and I'll let you explore that in your small groups. But the object today is to create a ranking system that Cracker Barrel will use to post on the game, just like the ranking system here. So pick what you're going to use, what scores will be in the different ranks, and what you will call it. I'm going to place you all in breakout rooms, and you are going to be in charge of your own slide. Join me on slide 19 first. First, a quick little demo of what Google Sheets is and why you should use it. Slide 19. Some important things about Google Sheets. I have created the calculations in here for you. So all you need to do is type in the yellow column. Don't type anywhere else, just the yellow column. The green will automatically adjust. And the red arrow here, make sure that you're on your correct group slide so that each group has a space. Your group slides are below, beginning on slide 20, and I'm in charge of making the breakout rooms. You'll automatically be placed in them. Our breakout rooms will start in 3, 2, 1, now.
slide.
Hi, folks. You all are group
Hello.
1. You're on slide 20.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. All right.
I think we just go down.
Hi,
I think we're on
folks.
slide 21.
Yes, you all are group 2.
Right.
You're on slide 21.
Okay, thank
Hi there, group 3. You are on slide 22.
Okay.
Box. Okay.
Hi there, group 4. You're on
Hi.
slide 23 today.
Yep. Where is the Google Sheets thing that we're supposed to type in?
Right on your slide, it's
Right.
hyperlinked. Just click on Google Sheets.
Oh, okay. I gotcha.
Slide 24, that's our group slide. And then Teresa has linked our Google Sheets for us. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I've got
Hello there, group 6. You all are on slide 25.
And it says stop the clock. Is that what I should be clicking on?
Yep, you're going to test your reaction speed, and then you're going to put the values in the Google Sheets, and everybody can edit those Google Sheets at the same time.
Fairfax County Public School. It says override. I don't know what to do.
I cannot open it.
Yeah. Do I click override or?
Don't click override. Just we can participate. So we can do multiple tests of it. You don't need to override the firewall.
Hi there, group 6. I just want to make sure that you all know where your tab is in the Google Sheets to be able to upload your numbers.
I'm opening it right now.
Okay, perfect.
Yep, I see. We're group 6, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
then there's a graph, and then a table, and then on the it's all one number on mine.
Oh, well, I see it gave me an average, but I didn't. Oh.
Hi there, group. So there's some interesting decisions that you're going to have to make on which number do you choose. Do you choose to upload the average or each individual one? And that's something for your group to think about.
Well, my score only gave me one average, and there were no decimals.
I'm at the bottom, 15.56%.
I'm confused.
So you didn't get a decimal. Are you sure that you used the one that is on your team slide?
Yeah.
Well, I'm on my table, but when I went to do the human benchmark test, it's like gives me a summary page, and it says reaction time 321 milliseconds. That's it.
That was after you did it 5 times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I just wrote down my time each time, but it does give it in whole numbers. It says like 424 milliseconds was my first number, so but then we decided to change it to the decimal 0.424.
Oh, so some people in your group decided to change things to a decimal. You could keep it as a whole number for your whole group since that's what it gives, and you'll see some different things in the spreadsheet.
Action time, a 0.2, let's round it, right? Round it to the 10th place, a 0.3 seconds. So we could say 0 to 0.3 seconds, and then maybe that'd be like first place, right? So that would be a spectacular name. I'm not really good at finding a good name, but and then then 0.3 to I guess 0.4 is the next one, and then 0.5 is the next one after that. So I think, yeah, kind of like that.
Okay.
Hi, group. I think it's really interesting that you chose to use 10th place, even though your outcomes went all the way out to 1000th place. Why did you make that decision?
I think it's easier to visualize to the 10th place, but you're right. It might be more accurate to go to the 100th place or the 1000th place.
Yeah.
We were trying to think of, one of our team members were explaining the game to us, so she mentioned that it would be nice to do a range.
Ah, yes, it would be nice to do a range, and I think you all should stick with your 10th place because there's a lot of really great mathematical thinking in making that decision to go to the 10th place. So continue to chat it over because I am going to come to your group and ask you in the whole group discussion why you chose 10th place, and we'll talk about some place value number sense.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so
we go back to
Are any of you all familiar with Cracker Barrel in that scenario? I mean, I've heard of the restaurant, but I don't know that, kind of exactly what we're trying to do when we rank.
Yeah, let me go back to that slide what it says.
yeah, if you look, it's just like a little play on words, right? So like if you only leave one, you're a genius, but then if you leave 4, you're an ignoramus, like an ignorant, like they're saying you're good at it.
I'm familiar with the game, and I'm an ignoramus every time.
Me too. I never rank high with that game.
You have like 3 little golf tees, and you try to jump over them, and when you jump over one, you can remove it. But I always get stuck in a corner. I'm from Georgia, so I have been to Cracker Barrel a lot.
What do you think is it? So for this game, would it make sense to rank people with some names that had to do with speed?
Yeah, like Turtle or Tired.
Like
maybe not Turtle, maybe Tired.
So we want to put we should
like,
put our rankings on our slides. So hold on, let me make.
Yes. So who's the fastest
Hi
runner?
there, group.
Usain Bolt?
You all are doing a
Hi.
fabulous job. Your questions are right where they should be. If there can be a timer in the group to make sure that you have your rankings up by 12:40, so in 5 more minutes.
Okay, we're about to add them right now. So
Cool.
rankings.
What would be an animal in between? We could put in between.
Hi there, group 2. Just a
A
heads up
rabbit.
that we are going to end our time at 12:40, so you have 4 minutes to get your rankings thought out.
Teresa,
Mm-hmm.
when you put your numbers into the round to the tens place, round to the ones place,
Mm-hmm.
does it automatically do that? When I cut and pasted mine, it didn't. Or do you have to take?
We can get into like the details about how it's all done and the behind the scenes at the end. Timing wise, I want to get into every group and just kind of let them know where they are, but I'd be happy to nerd out and chat about that till for hours. So yeah, at the end we can do that.
Awesome. Thank you.
So, okay.
Then of someone being in first place, I guess.
Hi there, group 4.
Hi.
We have about 3 more minutes left in our group time, so take a minute and think about what your different rankings will be. What's the range for first place, second place, third place, and try and get your ideas on your slide.
Okay.
Like a group.
Hi there, group 5. You are doing exactly what you should be doing, just giving you heads up that we're going to come back together in 3 minutes at 12:40.
Thank you,
Thank
Teresa.
you. Okay, so those were the actual scores. I was not able to access the
Hi
game.
there,
It was
group
blocked.
6.
Yeah.
Just a heads up that we're going to come back in about 2 minutes, so think about the ranges for your different rankings and go ahead and get them on your slide. It looks like you guys are already starting there, so keep it up.
Thank you.
So it looks like
I'm picking Thor.
Okay.
Thor.
Oh, Fat Thor. How about Fat Thor? I'm just kidding.
Is that like, is that
He's fat in the last Avengers.
Yeah, Thor's not as fast.
And the Hulk is not as fast. I don't know. Ant-Man? I don't know who
Yeah,
Ant-Man is.
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man could
Do
be
you want, do you want Ant-Man?
And
Yeah.
I'll put those in the task. I can switch it to. Look at Thor.
I don't know. I was just looking for. I was like, he'd probably be faster than a sloth. Okay, we want Thor.
Yeah.
That was so
Hello,
fun.
everyone, and welcome back to the main room. Welcome back. Can you believe you've already spent 20 minutes on that activity? You all are doing great. All right, let's jump right into our math talk. I'm modeling what is on slide 26. Smith and Stein do an amazing job of breaking down the challenge of having a rich math discussion into 5 practices. And in here, I have already anticipated lots of things that you all might do. I've monitored, gone into the different rooms, and selected out just a couple of them that we're going to talk about. There is a certain order that I've put things in so that we can get this big discussion happening, and it's my goal in the discussion to connect them together. Just a heads up, with your teacher hat on, I have some questions on slide 27 that are going to get towards my overall objective, and that was part of the planning stages, and I'm going to be kind of working in that set of questions. So we're going to start off on slide group 2, and they are on slide 21. And I do recognize that many groups were still a bit of a group in progress, but we're going to look at the math as more of the rough draft version of it, where you happen to be right now in this display. And take a look at the way that they have created this continuum from the snail to the cheetah. And what do you notice about the numbers on the number line? Anyone can go ahead and turn on their mic and tell us, what do you notice about these numbers? Carol, go ahead.
Well, I'm noticing that 0.8, I put it in the on that spreadsheet, and that seems to be the slowest, and it's represented by snail's pace.
Excellent.
And then gradually we have more to a steady beat, and it's more repetitious. And then it looks like we're building up stamina when we get to the cheetah.
Wonderful. Go ahead, Kyle. What do you notice about the numbers on that number line? Kyle, did you see that? Jess, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess it messed with me for a minute, but I guess if you read from left to right, they're actually getting faster, so they're decreasing. So, and I'm sometimes used to reading, or I don't know, it just was a little bit of a mind twist for me for a moment to look at that when I'm used to reading from left to right and typically seeing numbers getting larger.
Yeah, that kind of did the same thing with me, where it does make sense to have slower on the left, faster on the right. For me, that makes sense, but it does kind of twist our minds a little bit. The numbers are going in a different direction than us math teachers are used to seeing it. Who else has something that they notice about these numbers on the number line?
It looks like it's 8/10 to 1/10.
Indeed, and many of us are used to seeing it the other way, but when it comes to representing decimals on a continuum, it is perfectly fine that we have it the other way, but the numbers there needs to be care in ordering them. Leslie, let's hear from you.
It looks like there were an awful lot of people between 36 hundredths and 37 hundredths and 27 hundredths.
So Leslie sees this kind of range happening here, that there are a lot of instances in this zone, And so the numbers aren't evenly distributed on the number line. There's more quantity or frequency in that area. Any other ahas about the numbers on this number line? Anne? Go ahead, Anne.
I was just noticing that some of the numbers are tenths, thousandths, 10,000ths, and maybe that made it a little bit more confusing to read the numbers.
I also noticed the different place values, and I started to wonder about what their little reflex test was, because each group had a different reflex test. I decided to kind of bring some more fun into it that way. And some of them go out to the thousandths place, some go to the 10,000ths place, and some go to the tenths place. And another group did that too. They looked at different place value. Let's come on down to slide 22. And I'm going to ask that group to talk to us about place value and why they chose what they chose. So group 3, can you talk about slide 22 for us?
Sure. So when we started deciding on our places, we kind of started with the 10th place. It was more visually appealing to us to show the 10th place. But when we wanted to describe a range, we went to the hundredths place. We kind of rounded so that it's easier for people who are playing to see what that might look like, what place they're in.
Thank you, group 3. And for everyone else, anyone can feel free to answer this. How might you find your place value for the variety of scores that they actually had that went out to the thousandths place? How can we find these numbers in these different these different rankings? Who has an idea to share?
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, so if we had, and I'm going to use 2 arrows here. Suppose we had this one that I'm going to mark up with a bright green arrow, 0.545. Where would that exist on these rankings? Laura, can you tell us what you're thinking?
4th place.
Sure. So looking at the categories that, like the ranking system that they devised, I would have to be able to look at 545,000 and be able to round it to the 10th place and make a determination that I would be, or that number would fall into the 4th place category looking at that. I could also read that information in the table.
Excellent. So we've got this table. We can see that this number is between 0.5 and 0.55, and it's over here. Raha, go ahead.
So the number when you play the game is to the thousandths place. Even though we didn't place these numbers to the thousandths place, we know that 0 and 5/10 is the same as 0 and 500. I'm sorry, thousandths. So even if we're missing those digits, it's just the data was being shown more concisely, but we're trying to include as many numbers as we could. I think that makes sense.
Absolutely. I like how you just changed that. Does everyone else see in green highlight in 4th place how Raha just changed it? Instead of 0.5 or 5/10, she made it 500 thousandths.
Yeah, I like that too.
So let's have a teacher talk for a minute. What is the mathematics that we are really talking about here? And how do we know if our students have a good number sense in this type of a problem? What's the mathematics and what's your evidence of good number sense? Laura?
So thinking as it like putting my teacher hat on, if Raha was a student in my class, right now she just demonstrated to me that she understands that you can represent the same number written, you can record it differently. So she understands that 5/10 is the same as 500,000. And to me, she's demonstrating that she understands the place value inherent in that number.
Absolutely. Patty, go ahead.
Yeah, she also, well, you can also understand kids that get confused if they see more digits in a number, even if it's decimal. Sometimes they think it's larger, but you can help kids who realize that, 512 thousandths is, whether it's how it compares to other, like 5.1, for example. So really so rounding and also the size of that when you add, doesn't mean, the more digits doesn't mean that it's a bigger or smaller number. It just depends what the tenths place is.
Indeed. And there's some other comments coming in the chat box. You should also check those out. So let's bring up the rigor and the grade level expectations a little bit. Who here teaches histograms and box and whisker plots? Would you turn on your mic and tell us how this relates to histograms and box and whisker plots?
This is Anita. Histograms, you would make a frequency table. So this is sort of what you're doing when you're putting them in categories, first place, second, third, or fourth. You're putting them in, you're grouping them into different categories of frequency. And you would apply that to your histogram.
Absolutely. So in here, our histogram would look kind of like a bar graph. But the buckets or the range for first place, second place, third place, and fourth place need to be the same. And then we would see how often we would get these different results. Who teaches box and whisker plots? I'm going to put a little clip art image in here so we can kind of see what that is. Who teaches that? Tell us about how this could relate.
So,
go ahead.
What box and whiskers plot, you kind of have two extremes, your outliers, and then you have a range in the middle where there's a median and mode, and you're trying to decide where the data would belong. Sorry, you can go ahead.
Well, I think a box and whisker plot shows where most of the data lies. Where it's different in a histogram, you can still see that because the tallest bar is obviously where more data lies, but with a box and whisker plot, it groups it a little differently. It not necessarily is telling you the frequency, it's just telling you that the most data is represented by that box, I believe.
And this is Anita. So yes, the box and whisker plot is giving the distribution of the data. So you're basically dividing it up into 4 quadrants, or quartiles rather, 4 quartiles, and each quartile is 25% of the data. So you're looking to see how much of the data lies in the first quarter, or the second, the third, or the fourth.
So, folks, this problem here is actually designed for many different grade levels, and I invite you down to slide 29 or 30. We have a big group, so I'll put 2 in there. And I'd like to think about what grade level do you teach, and what about this problem could be applied to your grade level. And I don't know if we have any AP Stats teachers in here, but you could think about sampling, outliers, range, How does this look? Is this normally distributed or not? And so what I hope we kind of talked about today was an importance for place value. I know frequently when we do place value and rounding, students don't know why we need this in our real world. And there's nothing quite like a reaction test to give them a reason for caring about decimals and rounding them. And so I hope this task was fun for you all. I hope it's something you can use in a variety of grade levels. I'm already seeing 8th grade, 7th grade, 6th grade, high school, 4th grade, 1st grade, looking at data collection, pictographs, and surveys, because kids like this kind of stuff. And whether you decide to use the rounding calculator or not, there are certain rules that you can put in spreadsheets that will automatically round for the students, so they could then have the discussion on, hey, what should we use to round this? Should we use tenths place or hundredths place or thousandths place, and why? All right, folks, that's the hour. We are already through with our MATHurdays for today. I'm sure there's lots of questions, especially about the spreadsheet, and I'll stay on to answer those. But I encourage you to, let kids see all the different ways that we can use math in our real world, give some meaning and some sense to rounding and ordering decimals, and play around with that number wave. See what other ways you can incorporate that into your lessons. It's been a pleasure spending my Saturday with all of you, and I'm down on the virtual parking lot taking questions. Some people wanted to know very early on about the rounding calculator and what I did with that. So I'm going to share my screen so you all can see. And in the rounding calculator, you can see mine here, I've put in a formula to automatically round. First of all, I knew that my students were going to type in the yellow box. So that is the box that's available for them, and everything else is tied to the yellow box. And my formula, I'll type it in the chat box too, is that I want this cell to round whatever was written in B4 to -2 place values. And that's the way Excel understands that it's going to go out to the hundreds place. And you'll watch that change. The tens place, it's -1. You can see that right up here. The ones place, I don't want it to do any extra rounding. I just want it 1, so it's 0. 1 decimal point is a +1, 2 decimal points is a +2, and 3 decimal points is a +3. So this function, this formula, tells the spreadsheet to automatically do that. Anita, I see that your school had a firewall for your different trials. On slide 18, I've listed all the different games that I chose. So if you do this in your class, just double check your school system's firewalls and pick one of the games that is able to be used. So there were 6 different ones you could choose from. All right, let's see what other questions there were. How do you make images like this faded in the background? Let's go ahead and do that with slide 31. So if I want an image in the background and I want it faded, the trick that I use is I take a shape, this little rectangle, I put it over top of it, and then I go to Format Options. This will be recorded, so if you're having trouble following, you'll be able to do step by step. Where is it? No, it's not there. The fill. and I hit custom. When you do that, you can pick these different transparencies, and I can make it rather transparent, and it kind of fades it. So I do that, and then I make a screenshot. So let's see. Download a PNG. Takes a little screen capture of that. And then if I want to put that down on slide 32, I hit background, choose an image. And let's see, here it is. And so it's a background. Nobody can mess with it. It's lighter in color. You can't move the icon around. It's locked there, much like the little cars are locked on this slide. You can't move that. And it's kind of transparent. And I can change that transparency at any time. Just hitting that little fill bucket and changing it. That's also how I made things transparent on the initial number wave slide. Someone asked about Microsoft Teams. I do not have access to Microsoft Teams. I strictly use free resources. I have a bit of an equity stance there in using things that are free, like Google Slides. Zoom is free. There's teleconferencing tools. And so I do that on an equity stance because I think that every student should be able to access interactive slides with really any device, including a Google Chrome computer, which can be purchased for under $100. So, but I hear on Microsoft Teams that they can interact just like they would in terms of Google Slides, but within Microsoft Slides or PowerPoint. And so I encourage you to see the different ways you can do that. How do you get the arrows to move to show what you're teaching? I go up to the shapes, grab an arrow, paste it down. If I want to get fancy, I can even color code it. And then I just use the arrows on my keyboard. I'm like tap, 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 up, 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 up. Or I can grab my mouse and just move it. So go ahead, whoever wrote that question, practice with that arrow, move it around. If you want to get real fancy, you can custom, bring that transparency down, and now you can move the arrow right on top of text. And that's how I do it with my number talk, so we can still see the numbers below it. Yes, some people are talking about transparency with Splat. One person asked, how do you help with students who are hearing impaired? And that is something I'm still working on. I have not mastered that one. If you do have suggestions for me, I am happy to learn and grow also. A couple of things that I am working on is making sure that all of my directions are linked to Google Translate. And that works with, especially for students who have visual impairments or speak a different language. And the way that I would do that is I copy whatever the text is. I go to translate.google.com. And I paste it in here. I can even change the language. It will read it in English.
Any help for students with hearing impairment?
It will also read it in a home
¿Alguna
language.
ayuda para los estudiantes con discapacidad auditiva?
But I think the most important thing with working with students that need other support like this is just having your directions written ahead of time, or having your discussion questions written ahead of time. And there are some great multimodal tools, such as writing text boxes on the slide or writing in the chat box to express your thoughts. But I am still working on that, and I'm also a learner, so if you have ideas, let me know. Someone asked about cell phones. That's another thing we're kind of still working on. If students download the Google Slides app, they are able to edit the slides with their peers. And that's something that we're still kind of exploring as a community. Again, if you have ideas, let me know. But it's really important that they don't just click the link, that they download the app on the phone. That'll give them more editing rights. Someone asked about toggling between tabs and windows. I do have tips on that. I'm going to go to my website and get the video link for you. Yeah, the transparency is really cool. Let's see, where is it? Staggering windows. So here is the tip done for you in YouTube. I'll also put it in the chat box. How do you sign in with an anonymous username for slides? I have another video on that one. Let's see, where is that one? Six ways to share Google Slides. And I'll put that down here also at the beginning of your question. And again, here it is in the chat box. Any other questions, folks? I hope you can use this lesson in your classes.
I just have one question. So I've made a. How do I find the recording at the end? I just want to watch something that you did one more time.
Yeah.
So you have that link on slide 3. I should just like bookmark that link and it'll show up there.
Yeah, if you check out my website, I have a special tab just for MATHurdays. Do you see that here?
Oh, yeah.
And I'll go ahead and post that link in the chat box. This has, this is just a more specific recording space for the problem. So you've seen the other 7 that we've done. This one will be right here by the end of the day. And you'll be able to see the blank slides, the completed slides, and the recording.
You are the bomb. Thank you so much for your help.
Sure thing.
All right. Thank you.
Carrie, I would love, love, love to see your video. If you are interested in sharing, if you email it to me, I'll post it on the website and cite you as the author. I think that would be amazing to share. Awesome, folks. Well, have a wonderful rest of your Saturday.
Hi, Teresa. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I got cut off. This is Raha.
Hi, Raha.
Earlier. How are you doing?
Good.
So I have been pushing the number line for rounding for a long time, and that was just because it was more cognitively realistic. And I was wondering, this rounding wave, when would you transition to using more number lines than the rounding wave, I guess is my question.
I use them at the exact same time. I show people the wave and the number line because what I want them to do is not pick their favorite, but instead make connections between them. And when they make those connections between them, they'll be able to, if they're like stuck on the horizontal line, they'll be able to think about the little mountain or bump. And then they'll also be able cognitively to move back into the regular number line. So I use both of them at the exact same time.
Awesome. Thank you. That helps a lot because I prefer the gravity pull, which has more realistic connections in the real world than just saying just shove it. So this is really helpful. Thank you so much.
Sure thing.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Thanks.